Hi, I'm Lori. My sister once asked me to house sit, a simple favor. Nothing more. Weeks later, I was sitting alone at the airport, shaking, because a photo showed up on my phone. Scissors, my porch. A message. Tell Lori I'm back. Then she looked me in the eye and said, she'll cry, then get over it. Why would someone who knows your worst fear turn it into a punchline? Let me know. Have you ever trusted someone who later used your silence against you? The airport always smells like old coffee and cardboard. I remember thinking that as I dragged my suitcase across the faded tile, past the vending machines that hadn't worked since 2019. It was too early for real emotion, barely 6 a.m., but something inside me felt unusually alert, like a thread being pulled in a sweater I hadn't worn in years. Shayna had organized this trip. Just us girls, she'd said. Spain, wine, sun, and sisterhood. Her exact words. She sent the itinerary in a glittery PDF like she was launching a product. I agreed to go, mostly because Marla was going. Marla made everything easier, and because Derek had said gently, maybe it's good to let them try. But even as I zipped my bag that morning, something felt off. Not dread, exactly. More like that pause before thunder. Weeks before, Shayna had asked me for a favor. She was going out of town with her husband and needed someone to check on their house, feed the cat, water the plants. You know how I hate leaving it empty, she said, keys dangling from her manicured fingers like trust. I said yes. Of course I said yes. I'd gone over, fed the cat, checked the locks twice. I'd even taken a picture of the back door after locking it, just to reassure her. But I remember standing there on her back porch, staring at the shadow of the satellite dish, feeling watched. I brushed it off. We all have ghosts that only whisper when it's quiet. At the gate I sat down, opened my phone, and that's when it happened. A message from an unknown number. Just a photo. My front porch. A hand holding scissors tilted toward the camera. I recognized the mat, blue and cracked at the edges. The chipped paint on the banister. The shadow from the neighbor's elm tree cast just slightly off-center. Then another message, right below the image. Tell Lori I'm back. I couldn't breathe. My lungs forgot how. My hands went cold. My phone slipped slightly in my grip. I looked around the terminal like someone might be watching me even here. My stomach knotted with a feeling I thought I'd buried in college. The late-night dread, the never-quiet fear, the burner accounts, the messages, the way I'd learned to walk fast without looking scared, the way I stopped going anywhere alone, the way I'd turned my social media to private, locked my dorm windows at noon. I never told my family back then. I was too afraid they'd think I was exaggerating, too afraid that if I said it out loud, it would make it more real. I started to call Derek, but my hands were trembling too hard to hit the right icon. Then another ping. This one was from Shayna. Just got this too. I'm freaking out. Are you okay? And that was when something in me shifted. Not fear. Not yet. Something quieter. Heavier. Like the weight of realizing a door you thought was locked had been open the whole time. I stared at her message. Then the photo again. Then her message once more. I didn't cry. I didn't move. But inside, a single thought bloomed. Unwelcome and inevitable. And suddenly, what scared me more than the man in the photo was the person who sent it to me. I don't remember walking to the security desk. I don't remember who helped me or what I said. All I know is that my hands were shaking, my voice barely a whisper, and the only thing louder than the pounding in my chest was the sound of my own breath trying to calm itself down, and failing. I showed them the message, the photo, the number. A man in a uniform took my phone and nodded, too casually, as if this kind of thing happened more than it should. I kept trying to call Derek, but every time I hit the green button, it felt like my fingers were ice. I couldn't stop staring at the picture, the scissors, the slant of the hand, the shadow on the ground. Then another message pinged. It was Shayna. Just got this too. I'm freaking out. Are you okay? And that's when everything went still. Because the timing was too perfect. Because Shayna didn't ask what happened, she assumed. Because she sounded worried, but the words felt rehearsed, like lines from a show she'd practiced in front of a mirror. My sister should be the one I call when I'm afraid. But something felt off. I looked around the airport terminal. People moved normally. Someone sipped coffee. A toddler cried near the escalator, but the air felt thinner now, like I'd stepped out of one world and into a worse one. And then I heard her voice. I didn't see her, not right away. But I knew it was her. Half whisper, half laugh, that airy tone she used when pretending to be flustered. She'll cry, then get over it. The words hit me before the meaning did. She was talking to someone behind the check-in counter. She didn't see me, but I saw her. And I saw what she looked like when she thought no one was watching. It wasn't fear. It wasn't concern. It was smug. I stood frozen, like my body had forgotten how to react. I don't know what gave me away. Maybe the look on my face, maybe the way my phone dropped just slightly in my hand. But the woman at the desk glanced between us, and Shayna turned. Her smile died instantly. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Later, at the station, the officer told me the number that sent the message was linked to a burner phone, paid for in cash 2 days prior. The ID used to register it was fake, but the store's security camera footage didn't lie. Shayna. Hair pulled back, sunglasses on her head, holding the same phone now in evidence. She sat 2 chairs away from me in the waiting room, her arms crossed, lips pressed tight. She didn't look sorry. She looked annoyed, like she was the one being inconvenienced. "I was just trying to lighten the mood," she finally said when someone asked. Lighten the mood? Like dragging a buried trauma back into the light was a joke worth sharing. Her voice cracked when she spoke, but her eyes didn't. They stayed dry and cold and tired. Not from regret, but from the effort of pretending she had any. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Derek met me outside the building. He looked at me for a long moment, then reached out and took my bag. "She said it was a misunderstanding," he said. I nodded. She would. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't fall apart. But inside me, something shifted. Something permanent. Because that moment didn't break me. It just confirmed that everything I thought was cracked had, in fact, already shattered. They said it was just a misunderstanding. But that moment? It ended everything that hadn't already broken. The ride home was silent. Derek kept both hands on the wheel, eyes fixed on the road, as if anything he said might crack the thin layer of calm we were both pretending to wear. I stared out the window. The sun was already too high, pouring through the windshield like it didn't care about what had just happened. Everything outside looked normal. Cars moving, pedestrians strolling, the world unshaken. But inside, something in me had shifted, and I wasn't sure I knew the shape of it yet. Not all damage is loud. Some feels like ice inside your chest. When we got home, I left my bag by the door and went straight to the couch. I didn't take off my shoes. I didn't ask Derek to stay or go. I just sat, hands in my lap, trying to match my breathing to the ticking of the clock. That night, Marla called. She didn't ask me how I was. She just said, "I need to tell you something, and I'm sorry for not saying it sooner." 2 weeks before the trip, Shayna had pulled her aside at brunch. Asked, in that polished, nonchalant tone she used when pretending not to care, "Do you think Lori's still sensitive about that stalker thing?" Marla hadn't thought much of it then. I figured she was being nosy. I didn't think she'd actually use it. But I did, because now, everything aligned too well. I didn't cry while Marla spoke. My throat felt tight, like a door had been locked from the inside. When she finished, I thanked her, and I meant it. But the ache didn't go away. It settled deeper. Later that night, I remembered another moment. A week before the trip, Shayna and I had lunch together, her idea. Halfway through, she leaned in, wide-eyed, mock-concerned. "You never really told me what it was like. Must have been awful, so creepy." At the time, I gave her a clipped summary. Enough to seem open, not enough to invite real questions. But now, I replayed the way she had tilted her head, the way she asked, "Was he ever violent?" Like she was collecting details. She wasn't comforting me. She was rehearsing. She needed my wounds to decorate her joke. The realization didn't bring fury, just something heavier. Like I'd swallowed something sharp and couldn't tell where it was cutting. I opened my laptop. Not to write, just to sit with it. The screen blinked back at me. I clicked into a folder I hadn't touched in over a year. Old therapy notes, half-written journal entries, things I wrote during the worst of it. I read one line twice. If someone ever turns your pain into theater, leave before they sell tickets. I closed the folder and opened another. My hands were calm now, methodical. I began deleting photos, backing up files, archiving conversations, because even though I hadn't said it out loud yet, I knew. She didn't just open the wound. She mapped it, rehearsed it, and then performed it like a party trick. 2 days later, my mother showed up at my door with a coffee that wasn't mine and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She didn't call first, just knocked like nothing had happened. Like we were still the kind of family that dropped by unannounced and meant well by it. I let her in, out of habit more than warmth. She sat on the edge of the couch like she had somewhere better to be, then handed me the cup. Vanilla. Extra sweet. I don't drink vanilla. She used to know that. I just wanted to see how you're doing, she said, smoothing her pants and looking around like she'd never been in my apartment before. I'm fine. The words felt like chalk in my mouth. She regrets it, she continued, eyes still not meeting mine. It got out of hand, but we're family, and family. She paused as if searching for the right word. Shouldn't let one mistake ruin everything. One mistake, that's what she called it. I know Shayna can be a bit much, she said, soft like she was trying not to startle a bird. But don't let this tear us apart. Your sister meant no harm. And there it was. The line that folded every muscle in my body into something smaller. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My jaw had locked itself shut out of necessity. Instead, my mind went back years. Back to a time when I was sitting on my dorm bed, phone in hand, after the 12th message from a stranger who shouldn't have known where I lived. I had hovered over my mother's name in my contacts, thumb trembling. But I didn't call, because the last time I'd cried in front of her, she'd said I was too dramatic. If she didn't know how to protect me then, why did I expect she'd start now? You remember? She said suddenly, pulling me from the memory. That one summer, when you locked yourself in your room for weeks and barely spoke? Shayna said you were just being moody. I told her you were finding yourself. I didn't know if she meant it to be kind, or to show me she'd been on my side once, but all I could think about was how she hadn't asked why. She hadn't asked then, and she wasn't asking now. You'll feel better after the trip, she added, standing up. Spain will fix this. Spain. As if geography could fix betrayal. She leaned down and kissed the top of my head like she used to when I had the flu. Then she was gone, the door clicking gently behind her like it was trying not to be heard. I sat there for a long time, the coffee cup untouched, the silence ringing. I looked at the plane ticket sitting on the kitchen counter. Then I looked at the trash can beside it. She kept calling it a misunderstanding. I kept calling it what it was, a decision. I didn't check my phone for 2 days, not because I was busy, not because I was angry, because I already knew what waited, and I didn't have the energy to bleed again. But Marla's name blinked across the screen late Thursday night. No words, just an audio file. I stared at it for a long time. Then I played it. Shayna's voice, light, effortless, full of charm, like she was hosting a game show. She called it trauma, she laughed. Honestly, it was her personality era, sad girl chic. The background laughter wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was casual, normal. The sound of people enjoying themselves. I froze. The room didn't move, but everything inside me did. I couldn't tell if I was more nauseous or embarrassed, because that laugh wasn't just about me. It erased me. She hadn't mocked an event. She'd mocked a version of me that barely survived. And people had laughed, because no one had told them not to. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark for a long time, not thinking, not feeling, just breathing through the weight pressing against my chest like a memory I hadn't invited back. When I opened my messages the next morning, there was a new text from my cousin Emily. Did you really exaggerate the stalker thing? I read it 3 times, each time slower than the last. And then I realized it. This wasn't just a joke behind my back. Shayna had shared the clip, framed it as context, maybe even laughed along as people formed new versions of me in their heads, versions I never got to defend. I was no longer the victim. I was the punchline. They weren't ignoring me anymore. They were rewriting me. That afternoon, I drove to the parking lot outside my therapist's office. I didn't have an appointment. I didn't go in. I just sat in my car and stared at the front door, remembering the first time I walked through it. How scared I was to talk. How hard it was to name what had happened to me. There's something uniquely cruel about hearing your worst moments used as punchlines by the people who said they loved you. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just sat there and remembered. Later that night, I opened my laptop. I opened the family group chat. I typed a message, one sentence, no emotion. I hovered over send, then I hit delete. Instead, I renamed the chat thread in my contacts list. Archive only, because they got to tell their version. Now I decide who gets to hear mine. The voice message came just after sunrise. I hadn't slept, just laid there staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the walls as the building settled. I had almost started to believe maybe things would be quiet for a while, until my phone buzzed again. Shayna, her voice was soft this time, low, controlled. I've tried to be patient, but it's getting out of hand. I never meant to scare you. You've always been so emotional. You twist things, make them bigger than they are. Maybe that's how you cope, and I get it. But this isn't trauma, it's drama, and I won't let you ruin this trip for everyone else. I listened to it twice, and then, for the first time in weeks, I laughed. Not a real laugh. Not the kind that heals. It was hollow, dry, the sound of disbelief too brittle to hold its shape. She wanted so badly to control the narrative that she was willing to steal mine to do it. I didn't reply. I opened the family group chat instead. That's when I saw it. The name had changed. Subtle, like everything they did. Family Vacation 2023 was now no drama, please. A handful of new messages filled the thread. Flight times, hotel check-ins, matching outfits. I hadn't been removed, but no one asked if I was coming. No one tagged me. No one referenced me. I had been airbrushed, perfectly. The silence wasn't accidental. It was curated. I closed the thread and stared at the ceiling again. This time, it didn't feel like the house settling. It felt like my stomach was. I didn't scream. I didn't message back. I didn't try to explain. Instead, I archived the thread. I backed up all the photos. I screen-recorded Shayna's voice message. I organized it all into folders, like evidence for a case I never planned to file. Then I changed the group's contact name in my phone from family to closed file. Let them think I was dramatic. I was, for once, loud enough to leave a mark. Later, I opened my email and began typing a resignation letter to Shayna. Just a single line. I won't be attending the trip. I hovered over send, then I deleted it. Instead, I opened a blank document and titled it, My Version. The first sentence came easily. They wrote me out, so now I'll write myself in. If you're going to be erased anyway, might as well choose what you leave behind. I don't know why I went. Maybe to prove I could still show up. Maybe to prove they couldn't erase me completely. Maybe because a part of me wanted to see if anyone would dare look me in the eye. Sunday lunch at Aunt Teresa's house had always followed a rhythm. Deviled eggs, too much iced tea, jokes passed down like heirlooms. This time it was different. The silence wasn't new, but the way it pressed into the corners of the room, that was. I walked in and greeted no one. Not because I didn't want to, but because no one gave me the space to. They shifted in chairs, adjusted napkins, asked each other about flights and luggage and weather. It was like watching a play I had forgotten the lines to. They'd renamed the group chat. They'd removed my name from every itinerary. But today, they couldn't remove me from the table. Marla sat 2 seats down. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just waited. Halfway through the meal, after the third mention of sangria tastings and sunset photos, she set her fork down. The room went still. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. I'm going to say this once, she began, and if it makes anyone uncomfortable, good. Lori didn't imagine anything. Shayna made those messages, the ones with the scissors, the threats. She admitted it in the recording. And that voice clip you all heard? The one that made it sound like Lori was dramatic? That wasn't context. That was cruelty. The clink of silverware stopping midair felt louder than any scream. Lori was stalked in college, Marla continued. It's not gossip. It's not a bit. It was real. I was there when she stopped going to class, when she stopped eating, when she started sleeping with the lights on. This isn't about who's too sensitive. This is about what none of you had the courage to say. I didn't breathe. I couldn't. For the first time, I wasn't the one bleeding to prove I was hurt. Someone coughed. Someone else reached for the breadbasket like the sound of carbs could fill the space truth just left behind. Marla sat down. No one clapped. No one thanked her. No one even looked at me. After dessert was cleared, I followed her out back to get some air. But before I could say anything, her mother's voice cut through the quiet. "Why would you say all that in front of everyone?" she hissed. "This is family business. You don't humiliate blood at the table." Marla didn't answer at first. Then I saw her jaw tighten. Her eyes went glassy. She said sorry, but not to her mom, to me. And in that moment, I realized something. They hadn't just punished me for my voice. They punished her for using hers. We went back inside. No one met our eyes. No one offered leftovers. No one said goodbye. I left before coffee was poured. Outside, I texted her 2 words. "Thank you." Her reply came seconds later. "Now what?" I typed 3 words, deleted them, tried again. This time they stayed. "Let's find out." 2 days passed. No one reached out, not even to ask where I'd gone when I walked out before dessert. The family chat was alive again. Photo updates, packing lists, emojis flying like nothing had cracked beneath the surface. The same surface they'd been polishing for years. I stared at my phone from across the kitchen table, not touching it. Just watching the notifications pile up like unopened bills. I opened the email with my flight confirmation, hovered my thumb over it, then slid it into the trash. No announcement, no reply, no explanation. Let them wonder. Or don't. They've written a version of me I don't recognize. I'm stepping out of the story entirely. I gathered my things slowly, one by one. The set of pajamas I only wore around them. The sandals I'd bought after Shayna said I needed to look more vacation-ready. I folded everything with care, not because I owed them neatness, but because this wasn't an act of anger. It was a choice. Then I found the spare key to my mother's house, tucked inside a drawer I rarely opened. I drove over early, so early no one was awake, slid the key through the mail slot, left a small white envelope on the doormat. Inside, I wrote only one sentence: "Silence is also a response." Then I turned around and didn't look back. At home, I blocked Shayna's number, archived the family thread, deleted the calendar invite titled "Spain Trip Girls Only." I unsubscribed from the noise they kept mistaking for love. And then I walked. Downtown Santa Fe still smelled like roasted green chili and sun-baked adobe. Tourists wandered past with cameras and sandals and laughter that didn't feel like mockery. I passed the bookstore I used to visit in college, stepped inside, and bought a blank journal with a soft linen cover, the kind that didn't scream for attention. I wasn't running. I was returning to the part of me that never needed permission to exist. At home again, I placed the journal beside my laptop. The screen was still open to the last file I'd started, some letter I'd never send. I renamed the file. First draft, me. And in that moment, I realized something. They thought my silence was surrender, that not responding meant agreement, that stepping back meant stepping down. If they wanted me to disappear quietly, they should have been kinder when I was still listening. It's been a month since I left the group chat, since I stopped performing grief in ways that made everyone else comfortable. The mornings feel different now, not better, just quieter. And that quiet doesn't sting like it used to. I stood by the window today, holding my mug like a grounding stone, watching the light bleed through the curtain seams. That sentence, her sentence, floated back to me like a song I used to hate but knew by heart. She'll cry, then get over it. But this time it didn't land like a bruise. It landed like a badge. Not because she was right, but because I did. I got over it. Not the pain itself, but the part where I kept needing them to see it. Marla and I met for coffee last week. Same place, same table, different air between us. She didn't ask how I was. I didn't need her to. We both knew the answer the moment she looked at me and said, "You look lighter." I smiled, not wide, but real. "I think I'm okay," she nodded. "Then you are." Sometimes healing sounds like long silences between friends who never needed apologies to understand each other. A few days later, a cousin posted a new family photo online. Filtered, bright, filled with the same grins they'd been recycling since we were kids. Shayna wasn't in it. Someone commented, "She needed time away." I didn't click, didn't zoom, didn't care. She disappeared louder than she ever showed up. No court case, no family intervention, no big dramatic reckoning, just absence. A kind of justice that echoed louder than any confrontation could. I went into my closet this morning to reach for something and saw the suitcase. Still zipped, still waiting, still full of the version of me who thought reconciliation was the only way to reclaim peace. I opened it. Inside was the itinerary for the trip. Folded, crisp, never creased by real use. And a small journal I had packed in case I needed to write things down. I hadn't touched it. Until now. I flipped to the last page and wrote, "The version of me who needed their approval doesn't live here anymore." Then I closed it for good. Before leaving the apartment, I taped a sticky note to my fridge. Pale yellow, simple handwriting, no fanfare. "She'll cry, then get over it." She did. I didn't take a picture. I didn't post it. I didn't send it to anyone. Some things don't need to be witnessed to be true. I grabbed my keys, slipped on my coat, and stepped outside. The air was warm, soft, a little more mine than it used to be. Maybe they're still talking. Maybe they've stopped. I don't know. I just know I'm not listening. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. I used to think silence was surrender, that if I didn't fight loud enough, I didn't matter. But I've learned that peace often comes in quiet decisions, like removing yourself from rooms that only value your pain when it's convenient for their narrative. If my story reminded you of your own, maybe it's time to ask, what version of yourself are you still editing for someone else's comfort? And more importantly, who are you when no one's watching? I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever chosen peace over being understood? Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. If this video touched your heart, leave a 1 in the comments or share what part spoke to you most. And if you want more stories that heal, challenge, and connect, don't forget to subscribe. This is just one voice, but maybe, together, we create a space where no one gets erased.